Angelina, to your right. Angelina, to your left side. Angelina.
It wasn't a headline, it wasn't an accusation, it was a sentence, measured, quiet, but devastating, the kind of line that doesn't need volume to hit like thunder. Angelina Jolie said it without raising her voice, without changing her expression, as if she were merely stating a fact the world had forgotten. There's a difference between telling a story and stealing someone else's voice while smiling for the camera. No one interrupted, no phones buzzed. The entire room, the kind filled with seasoned women who'd heard every brand pitch, every curated sob story, fell completely still. It wasn't what she said that chilled them, it was who everyone knew she meant. The quote hung in the air like smoke after a match is struck. Blake Lively's name wasn't spoken. It didn't need to be. The setting was deliberate. No stage lights, no publicists, no invites to the press.
It is a myth that rape is an inevitable part of conflict.
It was a closed-door salon, an elite, deliberately un-Instagrammable event called the Artist for Ethics Summit. 40 women gathered not to perform but to speak plainly. Angelina didn't arrive with an entourage, no handlers, no spectacle. She sat among the rest, dressed in black, listening more than talking. But when her turn came, the temperature of the room shifted. She spoke not like a celebrity, but like a witness. And in that private room where truth carried more weight than applause, her words sliced through the noise with surgical precision. Just days before that summit, Blake Lively launched Homebound, a soft-colored, aesthetically perfect campaign claiming to support displaced families and rebuild stories torn apart by conflict. It trended immediately. Celebrities reposted, stylized photos of Blake crouching near a refugee tent, golden hour light, crisp linen, circulated like wildfire. But for those who knew, something felt off, too familiar, too polished. The phrasing sounded like déjà vu, and then someone pulled receipts. A 2019 UNHCR campaign, Angelina Jolie's project, the very same village. The same words, the same story, only scrubbed clean and filtered for Instagram. Privately, Angelina was furious, not in a diva way but in that rare, quiet, controlled rage that only comes from watching your life's work get diluted into someone else's highlight reel. Her team reached out to the UN. Emails circulated, one was leaked. It confirmed what insiders suspected. Blake's campaign had lifted protected content from UN archives without credit, without permission, and worse, without understanding. It wasn't just unoriginal, it was unethical. Blake's PR team scrambled. They insisted it was coincidence, but the similarities were beyond uncanny. They were architectural. Within 48 hours of Angelina's quiet quote going semi-viral in activist circles, the facade of Homebound started to crack. The campaign website went offline for updates. The tagline vanished. Images were pulled from Blake's Instagram in silence, one by one. No statements were made. No corrections posted. Just sudden absences, like someone trying to bury evidence without being noticed. But people had noticed. Screenshots had already made their rounds. And when you try to erase something in the digital age, you only make it more visible. The internet doesn't sleep. Reddit threads bloomed overnight. Side-by-side comparisons began to surface. Quotes from Angelina's refugee visits matched word for word with Blake's captions. Photos of Angelina in Jordan mirrored almost identically by Blake in Syria. Same composition, same angles, one of them real, the other rehearsed. Activist accounts began reposting with sharp commentary. This wasn't flattery, this wasn't homage, this was appropriation with better lighting. Someone from the summit spoke anonymously days later, her voice low, steady, recalling the moment Angelina made her statement. She said no one looked at their phones, no one made eye contact, everyone just paused. They didn't need a name. They felt the shift. Because it wasn't just about one campaign, it was about the pattern. How easy it is to cosplay compassion when it's trending. How often women like Angelina are used as blueprints, then discarded when the cameras roll. And in that room, the quiet was not discomfort. It was recognition. It began quietly. Ella magazine quietly took down a glowing piece about Homebound. A late-night show suddenly had scheduling changes and removed Blake's segment.
Difficult as conditions are, the refugees here count themselves as the lucky ones.
Then came the Instagram clues: follows revoked, likes undone. Florence, Charlize, Emma, Lupita, women who know better, women who watch. None of them made noise. They didn't need to. The digital distance spoke for them. Angelina never reposted her words. She didn't have to. Her longtime creative director did though. A black screen, white serif font, the quote, no tag, no commentary. It was screenshotted, reposted, shared like a whisper that grew into thunder. Because in an industry full of spin and spectacle, authenticity leaves a scar when it's stolen, and the people who saw the original, who knew where those words came from, weren't letting them go quietly. It wasn't a tabloid that did it, not a tweet or a leak from a bitter assistant. It came from a folder, neat, internal, and marked Presentation Draft V3. It had been used during a 2022 creative pitch to secure brand funding, meant to stay buried behind NDAs and locked drives, but someone opened it and someone shared it. Within it, mood boards, references, inspiration pools. One slide stood out, a clean layout with side-by-side visuals. On the left, Angelina Jolie in a dusty refugee camp, wrapped in a scarf, expression calm but alert. On the right, a mock-up with Blake's face photoshopped in the exact pose. The copy beside it read, leverage proven emotional palettes, Jolie-style field intimacy, controlled sorrow, palpable but beautiful. There were more captions rewritten from Angelina's previous work. Notes suggesting to tone down the politics, turn up the mother figure energy. There was even a suggested wardrobe list: loose neutrals, field chic, evoke aid worker, but accessible. It wasn't just inspired by, it was built from her. Planned, calculated. And now, out in the wild, weeks before everything cracked open, Blake had sat down for an interview. It was cozy, safe, the kind of podcast where celebrity women talk about balance, purpose, passion. The interviewer asked her who she looks to when building campaigns. Blake smiled that wide, sincere smile. She named women, women with gloss, women with brands. Angelina wasn't one of them, and it wasn't just that she left her out. It was how she spoke about activism, like it was something that could be launched. A vibe, a look. She talked about connection, about finding stories that feel right for me. There was no mention of proximity, no mention of risk, no mention of people, only narratives. And if you listened closely, there was a moment, just a second, when she stumbled. When the host said, "You've done some things that reminded me of Angelina Jolie's work," and Blake's face twitched, just a flicker. She replied too quickly, "Oh, I think we all share similar values." The pause after that sentence, it lasted longer than the interview itself. There are messages you draft and delete. There are messages you pray stay buried. And then there are the ones that escape, burning, undeniable. This one came from an internal Slack channel. Someone screenshotted it, cropped the name, and sent it to a friend. That friend knew what it meant. It passed through hands like contraband until it finally surfaced. The message read, "Can we get the Angelina look but cleaner, more lifestyle, less heavy, like compassionate but on brand?" It wasn't long, but it was everything. It revealed the machinery, the aestheticization of suffering, the controlled imitation of real humanitarian work reshaped into digestible content. People didn't just repost it, they dissected it, collaged it next to the images it referenced, compared the tones, the lighting, the borrowed empathy. In under 24 hours, compassionate but on brand trended on Twitter like a punchline to a joke no one found funny anymore. And Homebound? It became shorthand for performance, a case study in how quickly curated sincerity can unravel. Hollywood doesn't cancel loudly. It doesn't throw drinks or burn bridges where cameras can see. It moves like weather, quiet, unannounced. The unfollows started on a Wednesday. Charlize was first, then Florence, then Ava, then Viola. Each one noticed by fans who track these things like seismic shifts, a slow digital vanishing. Then came the reverse. Angelina followed someone back, someone she hadn't in years, Natalie Portman, who, within hours, posted a quote, "Real legacy isn't how you frame the story, it's how many people still carry it after you're gone." She didn't tag anyone. She didn't need to, because in that world, follows are not just social gestures, they're public alignments, affiliations. When women like that shift their gaze, the entire axis tilts. Blake's circle, once airtight and glowing, began to feel strangely cold. It wasn't prophecy, just exhaustion. A clip that had once been cut for being too raw surfaced. Angelina, in jeans and no makeup, sitting on the edge of a collapsed tent in Lebanon. She wasn't performing. She was waiting for a translator to return, brushing dust off her sleeves. Off camera, someone asked her about celebrity activism. The tape kept rolling. She didn't look up, just said, "Eventually they'll wear our work like borrowed clothes, but they won't know how heavy it really is." She adjusted the mic on her collar, sighed. "They'll replicate the image, but not the risk." The clip had no music, no filters, just the sound of wind and her voice. It spread like wildfire because it didn't try to be anything. It was, and in hindsight, it wasn't just a warning. It was inevitable. The gala was glossy, crystal, lace, 1,000 tiny lights. It was the kind of night where everyone plays a part. Dresses stitched with silent rivalry, smiles sharp enough to cut. Angelina arrived late, no fanfare, just presence. She stood next to Amal Clooney, the two of them in a conversation too deep for photographs. Women who had done the work, not just worn the costume. Across the room, Blake stood alone, not ostracized, just outside of it now. She held her champagne glass like a prop, smiled at no one in particular, waiting for someone to approach. No one did. A single photo captured it, accidentally brutal in its honesty. It circulated quietly at first, then caught fire, not because of what anyone said, but because of what was finally seen. The spotlight wasn't on her anymore. It never really had been. And that was the break, not loud, not scandalous, just a soft final realization that she had been playing the wrong role in the wrong story.